What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Chase Corrington here. This is the Chase Corrington YouTube channel, where we seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through a deeper understanding of the nature of the reality we live in, and by discovering the hidden wisdom of the ages, ladies and gentlemen. Last video, I talked about the IFD trap, idealizing, leading to frustration, that leads to demoralization and depression, which leads back to idealizing and runs in a circle. And this is an example that shows the relationship between futurizing or living in the past being something that causes a lot of unhappiness compared to the now, the present moment, which allows more happiness. And so it went into the frustration of fulfillment, then you idealize, and it's a circle, and some people stay there. This disease of more is a real problem because the real learning and growth comes from the process, ladies and gentlemen. And I was unable to fully finish this video, so we'll go into that right now. What happened last time is I hit a maximum file size for recording on my phone. It's a 4 gig limit. So when the video cut out last time, I had reached the 4 gig limit. And so I had to cut off maybe 2 seconds at the end, so that way I didn't run into talking about something else and then it cut my voice off right as I was talking. So anyways, that's what happened last time. And let's go right into this. The process of being able to create a peak experience by being in the moment is very fascinating. What is a peak experience? That's tough to describe, ladies and gentlemen. I would think a peak experience is fully experiencing reality, fully experiencing the now. So because the real learning and growth comes from the process, being able to create a peak experience by being in the moment, get consumed in it, create with it. Consumed in the moment, creating from the moment. Life is what happens to us while we're making other plans. So we're busy thinking about yesterday and what we should have done, or tomorrow and what we want to do. Meanwhile, life is happening to us while we're thinking about these other things. Life is what happens to us while we're making other plans. So why would we purposefully postpone our gratification and then defend our misery? We never stop and say, this is it. Like, I finally got to where I want to be. Because even saying that inferences or references the future and the past. I finally got to where I want to be. It's like throw away the finally got to, want, and just like be. I am. And find a way to not depreciate that. Find a way to appreciate that. Your very being. Not you as a item, but you as a experience. Your being, like the word being, can oftentimes lead to the mental image of just a person, like a being. When really it's more of a a flow of action, a being. We are being. And I think that is where real happiness comes from, is when we can not only just be, but accept, fully accept our being, our process, our flow, where we are. And so it's so fascinating to me that we purposefully postpone our gratification. So we're like, no, this isn't quite it. It'll be better later. And then when somebody comes to tell us, like, no, actually right now is pretty dang good, we defend the fact that right now's, we argue the fact that right now is not it, and we defend that it will be later. And so we defend our misery and purposefully postpone our gratification. Why we do this? It's fascinating. I'm not sure. Life is what happens to us while we're making other plans. So we should quit purposefully postponing our gratification. No longer defend our misery. When somebody tries to tell us, oh, it's not that bad, and then we try to defend our problems like, oh, it is this bad, and let me tell you why it's so bad. It's like, why would we do that? Why would we want to convince ourselves or anybody else how bad it is? It's fascinating. It's all about perspective, ladies and gentlemen. And so, we never stop and say, this is it. We're trying to get there. This is where I am right now. It's like, enjoy it, live it, celebrate it, value it. Because I'm constantly reaching, I was just listening to Wayne Dyer a minute ago talk about the different types of motivation, the psychology of motivation. And there's a type of people that have a deficiency motivation. They're motivated by what they're lacking and what they're not good at and what they're, the deficiencies they have. And so their motivation is because they're bad and they're trying to improve themselves because of that. And then there's another type of motivation that is a growth motivation. It is an acceptance of where you are. You're not judging where you're like, it's not a motivation from a lack, but rather a motivation from an acceptance and a willingness to grow. That makes sense to me, but then at the same time, my mind says, if you're wanting to grow, isn't that the same as a deficiency motivation? Like, I guess it's what you're connecting the want to grow to. See, I'm at this place where I'm like, I want to grow because I know there's so much more than I ever allowed myself the opportunity to before because of my limited perspective in my past. But at the same time, then I attach to the deficiency motivation. I'm like, oh, I also want to grow because I'm not there. I'm not where I want to be. And so I'm like, how do I balance and reconcile this, this want for so much more for yourself without judging where you're at in the process? Like, it's funny, at first you're like, okay, I accept where I am. I love myself, and I'm like, this is my path. There's no way for me to say that anything shouldn't have been the way it is, because honestly, I wouldn't change a thing, although there's been negatives in my life and struggles and ups and downs, and I feel it's extremely necessary in the journey. And so I accept where I'm at, and I understand an opportunity to grow. And that's good. That's the growth motivation. But then, once you start focusing on the growth, all of a sudden the attachments to where you are not becomes, see, it flips it into a deficiency motivation. And this is the whole abundance lack thing. It's like you start out with the process of abundance, and then you connect and you flip unconsciously to the lack thereof. Like you start out like, okay, I love where I am. I appreciate that it's a process. And it's almost like you forget about the now. You begin to connect to the future again. You begin to idealize. And it's very interesting. The paradox, the difficulty of understanding and utilizing these philosophies without getting caught in the trap of duality. I'm so fascinated by paradoxes. Like how the whole is a collection of the individuals. Or, like the polarity is dependent upon both poles. It's fascinating. So we're trying to get there instead of this is where I am right now and enjoy it. Like, man, it's really weird when you disconnect from reality with your mind. You're like, oh, actually everything I'm seeing is vibrational patterns that my senses are picking up and then signaling to my brain, and then the software sends it back through the feedback loop and it renders as the visual image. So really what we're looking at is only our rendering of the vibrations. And so then it's like, okay, like if you use the dreamer perspective, like when you're in a dream and then you go lucid, you're like, oh, wait, the real me is actually not this. The real me is actually witnessing what I am in the dream. And if you can get that, if you can just get that, if I could just get that, who I am really is who's witnessing what I am in this dream. Whew, that's deep. And so, just live it, value it. The past is over, and the future is promised to none of us, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the present moment is all we have. The past is over and the future is promised to none of us. Now, the present moment is all we have, ladies and gentlemen. So you cannot sustain a forced action. You cannot sustain a forced action. The greatest example in nature is when it storms or when the wind blows real hard. It doesn't storm continuously forever. Otherwise, it would not be significant. It would be the normal. That's a good way to make an example of how nature cannot sustain a forced action. We must then also admit humility to ourselves. If we know that we cannot, so if we're trying to create results in our life, or, do this kind of growth that we want without being deficiency motivated, rather just growth motivated, we have to understand that we cannot sustain a forced action. So we can't force happiness. We can't force ourselves to be effective. We can't force ourselves to constantly produce results. There are times when the wind blows, and there are times when it is still. There are times for effort, and there are times for rest. There are times when the trees bloom, and the flowers bloom, and things grow. And then there is a time when the trees and the flowers go dormant. And it's not because they're stupid and they get cold and shrivel up. It's because nature is intelligent, ladies and gentlemen, and we are a part of that intelligence. Nature knows, oh yeah, at this time of the year, it's more effective for me to rest. For then when spring comes around, I will be ready to bloom. I relate this to when we're trying to do things in life, trying to create results, trying to get things done. There is a time that we will not create all the results that we want. We won't get all the things that we want to get done. But we must understand and respect that that is totally necessary to allow us to be ready for the next moment, ladies and gentlemen. The secret to that is something that can really change our lives if we can understand it. I'm yet to understand it fully. I can almost talk about it more easily than I can understand it. But we must, to get this to work, we must also then admit humility to ourselves. There will always be something you want to grow towards, no matter which goal you reach. So how do we become content and grateful of where we are while reaching for more? I love this question. This is the paradox I'm at right now. It's like, how do we become content and grateful of where we are while reaching for more without coming from a place of lack, and also without lying to ourselves? It's like, to not come from a place of lack, you almost have to be like, I feel like, it's lying to yourself when you're like, oh yeah, everything is all good, it's just fine. And that goes back to us defending our misery. It's like when we try to say that everything's all good and it's fine, our negative self-talk, our ego, that part of us that's so connected to this physical existence, is like, that's bullshit. It's like, it's bullshit, man. You're not all good. You're not fine. And what is it? Maybe it's a survival program. Yeah, certainly a ancestral survival program that tells us, even when we're maybe okay, that we need to strive to take more steps to create easier opportunities for survival. I don't know. But this is just so fascinating. You cannot sustain a forced action. Admit humility. You have to be like, all right, maybe I'm not the best. And maybe that's okay. Because once I get to that place of, I'm not the best, but that's okay because I am me, and nobody else can judge where I am because they're not me. They don't know my experience. And then we can come from that place and go, okay, now how do we grow? Boom. That's the secret, ladies and gentlemen. I am Chase Corrington. This is the Chase Corrington YouTube channel, where we seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, where we seek to discover the hidden mysteries of our reality and the hidden wisdom of the ages. If you get value from the content that I provide, consider subscribing. Smash the like button. Leave a thumbs up. That helps the YouTube algorithm determine whether or not to place this video in front of more people. And so if you think more people should listen to what I have to say, then smash the like and leave a comment and let me know what you think, ladies and gentlemen, because this is so powerful. And one day I hope to truly understand it and be able to apply it in my life. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back in the future with more interesting topics to throw your way. Thank you for watching.